Here we go.
Oh boy, here we go, Ben.
Beast of Reincarnation, the highly anticipated action RPG from Game Freak, recently released. You know, the Pokemon people. And they're branching out. Was it a good idea? We'll get into that here. Hey, AJ.
Hey, Ben. Man, I don't want to go into this review with the tone I already have, but I desperately wanted this game to hit the areas that I was kind of craving for it to scratch, especially with it being this very, like, what would you call it? Like, plant punk, in a way? Like, the entire world is kind of, like, consumed by, plant.
Yeah. Flower.
But Ben, the game itself, for anybody who doesn't know, because of course we started this off with a very negative tone, and we'll explain why, but it's kind of Souls-likey action RPG, JRPG, and overall, that's kind of the best way that I could kind of put it, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't even establish itself as, like, something super, super solid in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, it's going for that Sekiro sort of parrying system in combat. It's
boy, oh boy, we all know how I feel about parrying.
yeah. We can talk more about that in a little bit, but just trying to give a gist. I mean, it's kind of semi-open world exploration. We'll get into that more. It's a whole lot of getting into it. What did you like about this game, AJ? Let's try to bring it back in a little bit.
Let's flip right back around here, because there is good to the game that I really, really enjoy. However, I'm gonna bring up a good with you, and then I kind of want to dive into the bits of it, because the good I have, my primary good for this game, is the combat.
Okay.
This is a loaded battle here, though. There's a lot that we need to talk about. So the combat in the game, of course, you mentioned, is very, like, kind of Sekiro-inspired and Souls-likey, but also I mentioned that kind of JRPG feeling to it. It definitely holds that very well, and it's super engaging. The combat is fluid when the game isn't kind of freaking out on my computer, in my experience. And it's just constantly it's throwing you at these fights, like basically trying to rush you along. So it's a good thing that these combat encounters are fun, because the parrying feels smooth and really well done. I feel like my timings, surprisingly here, Ben,
Mm-hmm.
like when I was hitting the button and I thought my parry timing was gonna be at that moment, I was pretty locked in. I don't know if I was either grabbing onto the visual cues better in this, or if I just kind of, maybe it's an easier parry window. And
I'm not knocking your skill, but I do think it's that. I think it's a very lenient parry.
That's one big question I wanted to ask you coming into this game, because of course, like I've said, I'm bad at parrying in games. But it still felt engaging when you're doing it. The biggest thing that kept me going, though, was the skills.
Oh, yeah?
And once again, I'm bad at doing skills in games. Like, I'm really bad at this, especially when you give me, like, a 7-button chain that I have to press to get here. Not good at fighting games. But, like, you have these finishers and these big combat moves, but in order to execute them, you have to hit specific RB and X combinations.
Mm-hmm.
And those felt fun every time I used them. And also what was fun is the enemies counterplay that quite a bit and just smack you in the middle of them. So I'm not gonna lie. I died many times trying to activate an ability, but that was the bigger combat drive for me.
That's
Overall
funny.
combat was my big plus, and I'm guessing combat was maybe not as nice in your eyes.
No, combat was fine. I mean, that was really the only time I enjoyed this game, like playing wise, was in the big boss fights. But it's just interesting because you're talking about abilities, and I barely used abilities. Like I did use them, but not.
Wow.
But I invested so in the game you have a skill tree, and your companion, Ku, the dog, the wolf,
Yep.
whatever he is, the Malefact.
The dog wolf malefect thing.
Yeah. He has a skill tree too, and I put so much into him over me.
Wow,
Yeah.
Ben, I put basically nothing into Ku.
Oh, that's fun.
I went all out on myself. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I would just use him to build up status effects and then just hack at people. It was pretty much the left bumper, right bumper show for me, like parry.
Hey, that's completely fair. The execution of utilizing Ku's abilities, I did like that kind of not freeze time but slow time kind of reminded me of that JRPG, or very specifically on my mind for a bit was Expedition 33.
Yeah, the timing
when those
aspect.
moments were coming, because of the timing aspects when you actually use those abilities. And that was super fun. That was a cool way to kind of break up the slashy gameplay for me, especially because, of course, for somebody who is battling trying to mentally parry and dodge attacks and actually execute attacks, trying to then go into a QTE event was like a jolt to the system.
Yeah, once I realized that Ku, when you hit those timings, heals Emma, that's where I was like, oh, I'm going to put everything into this guy, and I'm just going to constantly use my points to bounce attacks off of him.
That is so fair, dude. I almost at times tried to use Ku's healing as a crutch and would fail terribly.
Oh.
I ended up using so with Ku, you can also apply these extra little abilities to him, and or like status effect modifications, etc. And part of that was a recovery tonic,
Yes.
an emergency recovery tonic. I used that significantly more than I ever used Ku's abilities.
That's so weird. I mean, I used that as well, but towards endgame, because he starts with that basic fire seed, whatever.
Yeah, like
attack.
basically it's an attack where you execute the ability and he just shoots like a bunch of fire seeds to inflict almost enough burn status in the early stages, and then of course you need to upgrade that more to amplify that.
Yeah, but each one of those seeds that hits gives you health back. So towards endgame, I was pretty much just rocking at full health the whole boss fight, because I would just keep popping that off. And then
Unreal. I didn't realize that it was every single seed.
yeah,
Ben,
so if you increase the
do
amount of
you know
seeds,
how much that could have saved me?
yeah, it felt kind of cheap at points, but whatever. Yeah, so I thought combat was fine. I would like to get into bosses and just enemies in general here.
I was about to talk to you about kind of wanting to bounce directly into that. Ben, what was your thought? Let's go enemies first and build into bosses. What were your thoughts on the enemies that you're fighting throughout the game?
Okay. Just quickly turning back in my notebook to when we covered this at the Xbox Developer Direct. My last note.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. I figured you were going to bring this note up because, boy, oh boy, you hit the nail on the head.
My last note here was, my only immediate concern with games like this is enemy variety. And that was a big issue for me in this game.
I think if I had to pinpoint it, within the first 2 to 3 areas of the game you are in, you are introduced to every single enemy type you will encounter throughout the rest of the game, almost with like maybe 1 to 2 exceptions.
Yeah, and not including bosses.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's pretty accurate. Like I wrote down here because I heard people talking about this before I started playing, and I was like, I'm going to keep track of how many enemy types I see. And I ended up with a total of 9. Granted, one of them is just golem. There are varieties of golems, but they aren't that different from each other except for like 1 or 2. Yeah, it was a little disappointing.
I would say quite a bit disappointing, honestly, Ben, because especially for a game where your rough estimate for where people are kind of falling for timeline is 20 hours with the game. If you're going to give me 9 enemy types to go at for a 20-hour endeavor, that's a little rough.
And I just realized looking at my notes, I did leave 1 out, so we're at 10.
Even then, like, I mean,
I know, but
you think about like, you think about something like, I mean, maybe an unfair comparison, but a Souls game. I mean, I can't even begin to count how many enemy varieties there are in one of those games.
Oh, yeah, and it varies from area to area. Unfortunately, in this, it's just the same enemies in the same area, or not the same, in different areas. And it's kind of, I mean, like I said, maybe a little more than a little disappointing, but I thought the boss designs, I'm going to say this as a caveat, I thought they were pretty good.
I agree with you. I was kind of concerned going into this that was going to be where you and I were kind of going to butt heads here, was the boss design. But I'm happy to hear that you did enjoy how they looked.
Yeah, visual design.
Go into your next note, because I might already say I agree with you.
Every boss fight, like there's quite a few boss fights in this game, but for me, I mean, they all boil down to the exact same thing over and over and over. And
oh my god, the first 2 boss fights I enjoyed, Ben.
Okay.
When we hit boss 3, I was starting to feel the repetition.
Yep.
Then we start repeating bosses.
Yeah, that's where
for
it gets
the
rough.
Entire last, like, 3/4 of the game. And it's rough.
Well, I'd say the last quarter is pretty unique. Like,
I would say maybe I would even maybe split that into the last 1/6.
Sure.
Like, on the overall scale, but I can agree with you there.
And one more caveat that I'm looking at my notes here. I did not bring up about boss visual design. We can jump right back, but I need to say this. I thought all the bosses looked great except for the last boss. I thought he looked stupid.
Oh,
okay.
Dude, I was upset with the scale and the actual look, and we'll get there at the very end when we dive into some spoiler stuff.
Yeah,
but overall, like, you quite literally, what is it? I think it's like 4 to 5 unique bosses, and then it's just rotated throughout the game, roughly, other than unless you're counting the end boss fights, which of course there's the end boss fight's going to be its own thing. If it wasn't, we would be talking about a way bigger issue here. But that repetition, they don't only just look the same. They have the same moveset.
There's
so
14
you're going into
bosses.
these.
Sorry, just wanted to get that out there. 14 bosses.
Unique?
Yeah. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13 bosses?
I'm going to say very specifically, most of those bosses are the same creature with the same moveset as previously seen.
Yeah. I mean, there's a few of them that mix it up, but even the second to last boss is kind of just a reimagining of the boss you fight in the 3rd level. Like,
there was only, I think, 1 new move that I noticed on that boss fight. So, like, when we highlight that the fact that these bosses did not give the variation that is especially needed for this type of game. And when this game specifically is just funneling you towards those bosses, like throwing you, basically screaming at you to go kill the boss,
There's
go
nothing
move
else to do
on.
in this big world.
There is nothing else for you. And that leads me to the next thing, because I think we've talked enough about kind of the bosses, because the variety isn't there. The combat was there at first. It ends up not being there once the actual replaying of the same bosses happens.
But sorry, one more thing.
Yeah, do it.
I don't know if you noticed this on those boss repeat fights. So it seems like every boss has a phase 2. I think there's only one boss that doesn't.
There was a singular boss I realized that didn't.
Yeah. Even when you repeat those bosses that have the phase 2, it's the same exact cutscene, just with a different background, like the same animations. I was like, what are we doing?
Once I pinned that, I was like, are we serious?
You couldn't do a new one?
You couldn't have at least done something like, even just a tiny change in the cinematic would have at least given me some shred of hope.
Hell, use the same cinematic, just change the camera angle. Like,
seriously, is something. No, it was the exact same from everything I was noticing. But with that, let's kind of ping pong into the next area of the game, which is the areas of the game.
So all this gameplay shown here is my footage, and as you can see, I gave all these areas the tender, loving attention that they deserve. And by that, AJ, who hasn't seen my footage yet, it's just me blasting through everywhere trying to get to the next boss, because I'm so bored of just walking around and finding an egg.
I quite literally was just like Naruto running through the entire fucking game. So with how much time I sunk into the game being roughly about 20 hours, I did actually focus on a lot of exploration mixed into there.
Okay.
And boy oh boy, only the first like 3 areas felt anywhere near alive. Honestly, what you did with running straight through, just trying to basically boss rush in a lot of ways, it kind of feels like the better way to go about this game, because every time I stepped away from going towards the main objective, I was left sitting there like, huh, man, this is making this game feel like it's dragging.
Yeah, it becomes a chore. Like, I did explore a lot more in the early areas, and when the benefits of my exploring was I found a fertilized egg and could have a chicken in my little walking fortress.
I was like, what's the point of this?
I mean, hey, I do love an egg, but
I mean,
like,
yeah, but like
this adds nothing to it. Like, I don't need to find more whatever. Like, it's just nothing that benefits the progression of the game. There's nothing particularly interesting out in these worlds that I found. Like I said, I did start blasting through. Maybe there's some cool lore stuff, but
I can accurately say I'm within each area personally, I was only finding like maybe a couple notes, and none of those notes were really intriguing, which kind of sucks, because it's like even the story that they're kind of giving you in the world, it just did not hit where you wanted it to hit. And that was just kind of disappointing, going through these areas, and made it feel like a slog. And now the next thing that made it feel like a slog that I want to talk to you about, because there's so many things to talk about here, Ben.
I know, it's brutal.
The cutscenes.
Whose brilliant idea was it to have your main character intentionally have no emotions?
I can understand the intriguing side of it. However, it's not even just her. Man,
that's what I'm saying.
It's everyone.
Dude, every single... Okay, I love Metal Gear Solid 4. That game, I believe, still has the record for most cutscenes. so I can't talk a ton of trash. But in those cutscenes, there are things happening and characters
It's intriguing.
interacting with each
It's
other.
grabbing you. Dude, this cutscene, I shit you not. Main character Emma. Ku. I wish I could
Violetto.
speak to you. Violetto. Please.
There was
Like-
there was one cutscene where Violetto was said like 16 times, and I was like, "Stop talking."
Like, and then you have these cutscenes that happen after these big moments, and you're talking to Violet, and every single time it would just end with Violetto, and then it would just fade to black, and it's like, all right, well, you didn't catch me here. And not only that, but the characters' animations in these cutscenes, Ben, rough.
What animations? They're standing there looking
Yeah,
at each other.
They're
It's-
doing like nothing, and like the mouth movements don't even synchronize with both. I tried both. It does not synchronize with both the English or the actual primary language of the game itself. Like,
it was nuts. Like I couldn't believe it.
Every moment I was watching those cutscenes, it was painful to sit there. And of course, like each cutscene is at least like 10 minutes long for the story. And then
It
you have like
feels that way.
cutscenes in between where they're like a minute long each between, where there'll be these really not even important moments, or they hit you with a quote unquote cutscene where you're still moving around, but they're doing dialogue, and it's the exact same dialogue you just talked about in the main story cinematic. Why are you saying the same line again?
My favorite was the chapter where you're getting all this exposition from a character throughout the level, and you get to like the objective of the level or an area, and you have to hit a button, but you can't interact with it because he's talking forever. So you're just standing there in front of a button. Just be like,
No,
"Stop."
Ben. It's not just the beginning of that level. It's the entire level. It's every single button you have to press. You get stopped for an additional 5 minutes sitting there listening to the slow-ass dialogue that has zero emotion.
It was brutal. I'll be honest. Like, there were moments playing this where a cutscene's happening and everything is just shot, reverse shot, reverse shot of characters, where I'd go through the whole cutscene, like sitting here watching it, eyes glazed over, and it would end and I'd be like, I don't know what just happened. Like, I wasn't paying attention. I fell asleep.
Oh, dude, I wish I glazed over. No, I just sat there, and for some reason my brain locked in on the suffering of
good
just
for you.
watching the same thing over and over again. And genuinely, Ben, there are so many moments where I was sitting here playing this game between the combat, the areas, and these cutscenes, where I was sitting there playing and I was like, I kind of just want to go play something else, like now, and just not do this.
Yeah, right. I agree. It was brutal. Like,
I don't want to trash on the game. I don't. However, if you give us something that had the bones, because the bones are there, the combat is intriguing, the setting is intriguing. It's just, you really drop the ball story-wise, you drop the ball character-wise, you drop the ball areas-wise, you drop the ball cutscenes-wise, and that's just what we've talked about, Ben.
Yeah.
It was so
And-
hard to sit through that.
It was. You did mention something here, so we'll break up the bad for a couple seconds. I thought the world was really cool. Like, that was my favorite part. Like, this whole blight, which is plants infecting living organisms. It's kind of annihilation style stuff going on, which I like.
Dude.
At one point, they're talking about how spirits are used to like power machinery, and I'm like, I want to know more about that. Like,
Seriously,
that's
like,
sick.
why didn't you give us more of those pieces? Because that's so cool.
Yeah, and that
and-
was boring dialogue in a cutscene, but I was like, that's a cool concept.
And
It's
I
not
want to
original, but
I want to give flowers where they're due. Like, the very, very, very last bit of the story does have that kind of as its forefront, the world and kind of that world building. And that's where, like, it took me all the way to the very end, and all of a sudden I'm like, man, this is the one area of story I'm kind of like, this is interesting.
Yeah, like,
and I texted you. I texted you too, and I was like, dude, I don't know where you're at, but like I found the one area of story that I am latching to now. Like, and
yeah. And I felt the same way at that point.
And then of course you move into the final boss fight and you run into more issues there. It's just like at every turn they have these amazing bones, and they just never take it in the direction I thought they were going to. Instead, they just sit there and they just stay exactly where they were at the start. This feels like a game that they had made to be kind of a 10-hour experience, and it would have felt like a complete, full experience. And then they were just basically given the bottom line of like, you can't release this. Like you gotta add more time to it because we're charging this much for it. That's how it feels. And I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm just saying that's how it feels.
Yeah, it's a mess.
Ben, this is the same studio who makes Pokemon. This is the studio who has endless amounts of money. This is the same studio who has a ridiculous amount of people who hold them in a high regard. Even, like, I know you and I are out of and a lot of other people are out of the kind of, like, love for them and the Pokemon games where they're at. There's still a lot of people who adore the Pokemon games where they are now. I'm not going to say that's not a thing. However, there's a lot of flaws there, and I've always touted, like, oh, this has to be a Nintendo issue. This has to be a Nintendo holding the back thing. And finally, we get a game that they're making that isn't Pokemon for the first time in forever. There's older games, but those are still, like, 20 leagues different than what this is. And my God, Ben, I don't know if I'm going to be the crazy one here. Maybe I'm going to set the internet on fire and they're all going to come at me with pitchforks. But Game Freak might have been the issue the whole time.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people saying that they're going to apologize to Nintendo over this.
I'm going to. Like, I'm sorry, Nintendo. I genuinely blamed exclusively you for where Pokemon was. I was wrong.
My take on that is I will not apologize to you, Nintendo, because I have no problem with Pokemon games. I just think they look like ass.
Oh, see,
this game does not look like ass.
I agree with the ass. I have the other counterpoint as well of, like, I really am not happy with where the games have gone at all, and I feel like they're leaving a lot to be desired. I know that there are other people who agree with me on the big, vast internet. Yeah, gameplay-wise, I mean, you're kind of locked in where you are, and I don't think you really need to change that all that much, because Pokemon is Pokemon, and I love Pokemon for that combat. However, story, you've left it lacking heavily. Visuals, my God, you left it lacking. And you know what, Ben? Right here, we're going to turn. Visuals in this fucking game.
Go for it, buddy.
Are you kidding me? I already mentioned there are moments that did look good. I'm not going to say it always looked bad. But, Ben, maybe I was crazy for Halo. Maybe I wasn't. And you know what? They fixed a bunch of things there. I am not crazy here. This game is underbaked visually. For how much money this studio has, how much time has been put into this, and what we were basically promised going into this game, not even where I thought it was going to be. Those moments of visual stunning were still laced in almost in a way that kind of like Switch-esque limitation of hardware visuals. Like, it felt like they weren't pushing the visuals to where they could, especially, once again, I'm going to say, this is one of the most profitable game studios around. And the visual fidelity, you obviously were trying to go for that, but then it just becomes a underdeveloped for textures-wise in the distance, especially. I don't know how much you noticed that. The distant textures were just, like, not there. And I had everything to max for this game, Ben. My computer, I am running AM4 30 series graphics, and I ran this at max and getting a very consistent 60 FPS.
Yep.
And it did not look how I thought it was going to. It still looked like a kind of pixely, just artifacty mess in areas, blurry. Once again, we're going to go into this mess. Did you have that problem?
A little bit. It was more
in the
background.
More in the background than anything. I guess I should definitely say that. The background is where the blur gets real bad. There is just a slight bit of blur just in the overall visuals of the game, though, that just kind of made it at least a little more to kind of like move throughout. Especially when you're going through areas where you're going from light to dark.
It was big there.
The picking up of textures there didn't exactly feel that great. And lighting. Lighting didn't feel great either there. I mean, literally exiting a dark area, going into a light area, it's just blinding light. I tried every visual setting I could, dude.
Nope, you will have a white screen for as long as it takes. It was rough. I don't know. I think my brain just kind of adjusted after the first few areas because I did notice it a lot more early.
I will say I agree with that. I noticed it more early and then just kind of shut it out later on, but it still was on my mind, and I still sat there being like, man, if only they had nailed this, like combat and visuals, that's enough to give me a pretty solid sell already there.
Yeah.
So
still looks better than Scarlet and Violet. So
I'm
not sorry, Nintendo.
Touche there.
I just can't apologize to Nintendo. I think we've covered most of my notes. I have one more dumb little gripe. It's going to be a one sentence thing here. We can continue with it if you want or not. Why is the jump button and the interact button the same button? How many times did I try to jump away from a bonfire? It just drove me nuts. It's like the one minuscule
I
note
got
I have
so
written,
mad there. I got so mad throughout the entire game because of that. Because I would like go to move, and I'm a fucking bunny when it comes to games. I don't understand myself. I'm terrible at timing mechanics, and then I jump around everywhere like a lunatic. But I noticed it because every single time I left in a rest area, I wish I was exaggerating, Ben. I am so stupid that every single time I
did the same thing.
A rest area,
I hit jump and then I would sit right back down at the bonfire.
Just boom.
Yeah.
I'm like, no. Ben.
Yeah.
I do have something else, and this is something we can't not talk about. And I don't know why we waited until this long. No.
Music?
That'll be my very last post. That'll be my very last
perfect.
thing.
Post? Okay.
My very last post, and then I'm gonna die. No.
Rip.
Listen. The camera in this game is ass. Period. End of story. Even after your fixes.
Yeah. Once again, I think it's my brain adjusted. I've played lots of bad video games with worse cameras.
I agree,
but,
but it doesn't.
That first
justify
boss fight
it. Oh my god,
was
Ben! Not the first.
brutal.
I'm not even gonna highlight the first boss fight. That was brutal as hell. There's
With
birds.
the camera. Oh, the birds! I forgot about
Ben,
the birds.
that was by far one of the worst boss fights I've played in a couple of years.
It was rough.
I genuinely, the camera just doesn't. It just does, and that was post update. That was after we got the camera fix update. I went against those birds. And the camera was the worst thing I have ever used in a game. Ever. I couldn't lock anything. I couldn't see. And if you don't lock onto the enemy, you're not swinging at them. You're just swinging at fucking nothing. Emma's just sitting there like, heh. Like, so,
yeah.
And it's not just the birds, man. It's every boss. It's not just every boss. It's every fight. The camera is fighting you continuously. And yeah, you added a near, medium, and far camera range. Sure, that helped. It did, and I stuck to the furthest possible. However, every single time I was running around, I still ran into areas where you're running through an area where you think the camera's going to work normally fine. Like, it's going to be okay. And then the camera would just, like, bug inside of a fucking mountain wall and just be like... like,
I just and that was just like happened.
That was just like the toxic cherry on top of my entire playthrough of this game, where I'm just like, at every turn when I'm like trying to find enjoyment, something is coming in and being like, no. And that sucks, because the bones are there, like I said. The combat is there. The story/world could have been there. Like, and then of course you have just an ocean of broken game that you should have fixed, being a multi-million-dollar game company and having what you have at your disposal and having the time that you obviously had for this game. It's just, I was left extremely disappointed in what I expected from this game, and I'm not the only one.
No.
And like, it just sucks. I hate having to say that, but overall, like, my view of where I came out of the game, Ben, I was like sitting there like, man, I don't even know how I can compliment anything other than the combat. And of course, in hindsight, I complimented more things than that, but like, that's where I was left at the end of the game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like a kidnapping of a video game. When it's the only thing you're playing, trying to get it done to make a review. By the end, you're just looking for anything you can say is good. And
desperately.
I didn't quite get Stockholm Syndrome. I didn't quite get it. But I was trying.
It was fighting for it.
Yeah. Okay, let's wrap this thing up. Sound design and music. AJ, what did you think?
Sound design and music. Sound design, not bad.
Yeah.
Not bad at all, actually. I was kind of sitting there like, I have no notes. Soundtrack.
Nice.
I have notes. Why the
Me too.
Why are you giving me the same, like, 2 songs on repeat with no variety whatsoever?
None.
Zero variety. I literally cannot even mentally, like, I'm trying so hard to think of a different track than just the 2 that played on repeat, and I cannot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if those 2 stood out for me. I know the same 2 you're talking about.
They did not. I wouldn't say stand out.
I mean, stand out in the way of, like, I noticed them repeatedly.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if it was because those were vocal tracks. So, like, hearing those vocal melodies over and over and over.
Nah, man. I was desperate for some non-vocal banger music, and I got zip.
Nothing.
I got absolutely nothing. And that... Man, if you had given me a banger soundtrack with this kind of, like, world... Oh, come on. Like,
yeah.
Like I said, like, I adore nature and just all, like, nature-esque related things. And when you give me that post-apocalyptic nature is the one that overcame everything type vibe, man, I love it. I want to talk about one quick spoiler thing once we kind of give our overall view of the game. So, for anybody who needs a point scale, here it is. You're gonna shit your pants here in this one. 2 out of 10.
Okay, I'm slightly higher than you. I gave it somewhere between a 3 and a 4, probably closer to a 3.
That is fair. I was there at first, and I plummeted down very quickly when I was sitting here kind of stewing in my negativity.
Yeah, no,
Because
that's fair.
honestly, and like I said, I was desperately trying to think of good for this game. Like, I wanted it to be good. It's just when I'm sitting here going back to it, and the singular thing that I can think about of good from the game is just the combat, and every other thing is leaving a sour taste in my mouth. That does not prompt me wanting to even recommend the game to anyone. Like,
Yeah, it's a bad game. Sometimes games are bad.
yeah, I hate that. This is where we came with this specific game, because of course, like I said, I was really excited going into it for this world and the combat and etc. The combat's the only side of that delivered for me. It's like, I'm just like, man, but also we have so many banger games coming out this year that we had to have a couple misses. It just sucks that it's from Game Freak confirming what a lot of us already knew.
Yep. Okay, spoiler stuff. What you got?
Ben, that last boss fight might have been the worst fucking designed thing I've ever played. First off,
You mean
I
visually
clocked
design?
visually designed and also story design.
Okay.
I clocked that shaman dude was going to be at least one person linked to the big bad. Literally first encounter with him. I was like, there is no way you just show up right here and say this shit and you aren't an enemy. Like, and then of course both NPC characters that you meet end up being bad guys that you kill at the end of the game. And that just felt like, wow, cool.
Very predictable.
Like, I desperately want to hear what you thought about that final boss really quickly.
I mean, once again, eyes glazed over for most of the story. I did know that guy was going to come back in some way involved with the big bad, like you said. That enemy design was so bad, in my opinion. It was so goofy looking.
It was like a pasty white flesh texture with almost no face. Like,
yeah, well, and the crystal troll hair.
Yeah, and then like the big ass limbs with the like almost non-existent body. That just not it.
It was so goofy. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was any different than any of the other boss fights combat wise. I think I beat it first try.
No,
That's
I don't
not a
think
brag.
it was. I also beat it first try. And I think that might actually be dragging the game a bit. Because I think that the challenge level here, and this ping pongs back into what we talked about with the enemy variety and the bosses repeating, when you give the player 1,000,000,001 combat system actions, but then you give it to them 1,000,001 times, of course they're going to figure that out and they're going to like memorize that. When you give a player 9 enemy varieties with basically no combat variety, and then you send them through that for 20 hours, everything starts to feel stupidly easy. And this boss fight just felt easy. It just felt like they took all of the stuff that we saw from a mixture of the enemies, the bosses, and just made a final boss with it. And we're just like, they definitely won't have this figured out by now.
Yeah, and to be clear, when I was saying that it was similar to all the other bosses, I was talking about that repetitive nature. It wasn't in a positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to be clear. Because, towards the end of the game, like, I don't know if I died in the last 4 chapters, just because it's all the same basic attack. So, you get it. You've heard us talk about it.
You heard it. And then the only other thing I wanted to talk about that does go into spoiler is, Ben, the entire story is tropes. It's just the most generic tropes for any story you will ever experience.
Yeah.
And not
Yup.
done well, because tropes done well are great. Like, I'm not
They're
going to
tropes
say
for a reason.
tropes done, like, exactly, they're tropes for a reason. However, when you give us ones that just completely drop the ball, like, not even a single moment of the story was hitting how they wanted it to hit. Like, when you, the only area I can pinpoint, the singular only area throughout the entire game that I can pinpoint is when you lose Ku. And that is for probably, it took me about 15 minutes to go from losing Ku, not counting cutscenes, because that's probably another 45 minutes in between.
45 to an hour.
Yeah, it's a lot of cutscene in that chapter, like, kind of wild. But you have, like, this tiny segment where you lost Ku, and then you get Ku back. But that was the one singular area where the story trope got me, because you took my fucking dog.
I was sweating because he was my healer. So
Yeah.
at that
Oh,
point in
yeah.
the game.
Oh, yeah. That definitely took an impact on you, didn't it?
Yeah, I was like, oh no, I actually have to play the game now.
See, I had myself, like, maxed out at that point, so I was just like, all right, I'm fine without Ku.
Oh yeah, no, Ku had all my stat points.
But overall, Ben, is there anything else that you want to touch on?
No.
Sorry, everybody. I know that that was a long-winded, a lot of upset, and a lot of yelling, and a lot of negative. However, this game just ain't it.
Nope. But we really appreciate you being here and watching. We got lots of stuff going on the channel. We got Subnautica Saturdays, hopefully making a comeback this week after missing it for a
Yes.
few due to people traveling. Me
Don't worry
included.
about that. It's definitely not becoming a meme at this point.
No, Gears series is still a thing. We haven't had the opportunity to sit down and play, but hopefully we'll have some more of that coming very soon. We have more reviews, lots of games coming out, so lots of reviews.
Heck yeah. Ben's also doing a playthrough of Mio over on the Twitch, and we have the full uncut videos of that over on the YouTube, so go check that out. And then for me, I have Black Myth Wukong that I am running through, and boy, oh boy, you definitely don't want to miss that, because we've all talked about how bad I am at those kinds of games.
It's a good time.
But thank you all again for being here. Thank you, Ben, for being here, and thank you for suffering with me in
Anytime,
a
buddy.
week and a half long grind that I wish I could forget, but might be unforgettable for reasons I don't want to think about. However,
Never
with
forget.
that, I bid you all adieu.
Bye.